Alright, let's get started. So what you will hear from me about in this session is a more detailed vision outline. So you heard about vision at the keynote today. So what I'll be doing is I'll be showing you quite a few demos. So our engineers have made some significant progress in the vision that we outlined in the morning. So I will be using the latest build that we have. Hopefully there'll be no issues when I run it. And show you some demos and show you the progress of how ColdFusion 2020 has evolved in the last few months. Alright, how many of you have been to the ColdFusion Summit at the Mandalay Bay or the ARIA? Quite a few, okay. What's your biggest relief when you're coming in from a ColdFusion Summit at ARIA and Mandalay Bay versus ColdFusion Summit at the Mirage? What is it? For me, yes, I think you're right. So for me, it's clearly the distance. I mean, just going back to my room and coming back to the convention center, I clocked like 10,000 steps. It's so far, right? But Mirage is just nice. I like Mirage. So just get down from the elevator and you have the convention center right there. So I think for our kind of conference, I like Mirage more than any other conference venue. Okay, so before we continue, I would like to just walk you through some of the interesting code names that we've had for ColdFusion versions in the past. So we don't have a code name yet for ColdFusion 2020. So if you do have any kind of ideas that you want to discuss, feel free to discuss that with me at the end of the session. So here we go. So I'm sure most of you recognize some of these code names. So let's see if you can get all of those. So starting off with ColdFusion 8. Does anyone remember what this code name was for ColdFusion 8?
Yes.
What's that? Yes, it was Scorpio. Yes, it was a Scorpio. Who also remembers an interesting event at CF United? I think it was CF United 2006 or 2007. We had something interesting with the Scorpio. Anybody was there at the CF United conference back then? You were? Okay, so you were. Do you recall this? Ben Folder was a Scorpio man. Fun times back then, right? So he was actually the Scorpio man. So that was the code name for ColdFusion 8. What about ColdFusion 9? Anyone recalls what the code name was? ColdFusion 9? Yes, that's correct. It was the Centaur. So we've had a history of mythological gods as code names. So that's what we have continued as well. So ColdFusion, going on to ColdFusion 10. Zeus, yes, that's right. So we had Zeus as a code name for ColdFusion 10. What about 11? Anybody recalls 11? Yes. So that's the only code name that was not fitting into the themes, Blender. But yeah, that was the code name for ColdFusion 11. What about ColdFusion 2016? Come on, you should get it. It's just 2 versions behind. Raijin, yes. So it was Raijin, so Japanese god of thunder. So that was the code name of Raijin. And what about ColdFusion 2018? Anyone?
Aether.
Yes, it was Aether. So yes, so I do have an image, but it has the Adobe stock watermark as well. So I couldn't get a licensed copy of that. That's just using the watermark there. So that's the code name. So if you do have any interesting suggestions along these lines for ColdFusion 2020, do let me know at the end of the session. So that's for the code name. So now let's get into the details. If you look at the history of ColdFusion, next year we'll be done with 25 years. I'm sure we'll have celebrations as well at the next year's ColdFusion Summit. Now I keep talking about this. There were a whole bunch of languages that were introduced in the 90s, and hardly a few survive even today. And ColdFusion happens to be one of those few languages that continues to do well. One of the reasons, of course, is all of you have been associated with ColdFusion, and thanks to your loyalty for staying with us. The other thing, of course, is the platform itself has evolved significantly, right from the inception in 1995, when we mostly had DBML, right? It was called the DBML back then, to introduction of CF Script, which was a scripting version, to Ajax. So we had Ajax support in the days when jQuery was not even around. Right? So it was those days when we had Ajax support built in. HTML5 support, the API management platform. So the platform itself has significantly evolved over the last 25 years, and that is one of the reasons why ColdFusion has been around and has been successful as well. Now, to stay relevant going forward, we are at a juncture where we need some significant transformation in the product. That is the exciting time associated with ColdFusion 2020, which is what I would like to discuss with you in this session today. So we are at a crucial juncture in the product transformation. So this is the keynote slide deck. This slide you saw it at the keynote as well, so I'll not walk you through the details again. But the whole idea is, if ColdFusion has to be relevant for the next decade, we have to play in the space of containerization, cloud, and serverless. So that is the overall objective of ColdFusion 2020. This is the vision. So even before the vision statement, there are some key technology trends that I would like to touch upon. So these are some really interesting numbers. By 2022, 90%, so 90% is a really huge number. 90% of all the new applications will feature a microservice architecture. So what this means is new applications will no longer have that monolithic do-all functionality. You will just have one single, perhaps a REST API that just implements one part of your application and various microservices talking to each other and perhaps scale independently as well. So that's the microservices architecture, which gives you the ability to debug. So if you have to fix an issue, you just need to get into one specific microservice that has the issue and perhaps fix that. So that is the trend. So even not just debugging, even updating is so much more easy. You just have to update that one single microservice rather than doing a full-fledged application update. Right? So that's the microservice. By 2022, it's also expected that 35% of all the production apps, we're not talking about new apps here, all the production apps of the world will be cloud native. And this is just a couple of years away. So when I say cloud native, it is not just about applications being deployed in the cloud. They're actually leveraging cloud services. It's deployed, and it also leverages quite a few of those services as well. There are a few seats in the front if you want to, rather than standing over there, you can actually come and sit. Right here. Okay, so that's the web application trend number 2. By 2022, it's also expected that we'll have only 4 major cloud providers with also that most of the applications, 60%, even that's a huge number, 60% of those applications will want to be multi-cloud. So not just dependent on a single cloud, but lying across clouds. So these are some of the trends, and with all these application trends in place and how our customers have been evolving on the cloud, we came up with a vision statement. You saw this vision statement in the morning as well, but I would like to reiterate that. So we want to be a modernized platform for sure. Cloud native, microservice applications with absolute focus on ease of use. So that's going to be how ColdFusion 2020 and the versions going forward will look like. So the 3 themes that quickly jump up from the vision are modernization, cloud, and microservices. So I've structured my presentation along those lines. So we'll start off with microservices, just to give you a sense of what we are planning to do for microservices. Okay, so starting off with microservice support. Now this is a massive, massive reduction. So I'm sure most of you have downloaded the installer, right? It's close to 1 gigabyte. So we will have a new installer, a brand new installer. It's not even an installer, it's just a plain simple zip file that just will have the ColdFusion runtime, and we're looking at a size of less than 50 MB. So it's going to be significantly reduced. So in that zip file, you would ideally have just the ColdFusion runtime, just the runtime that understands or interprets the language, as well as the package manager, which knows how to get additional modules in. So the whole idea is, when you're building a microservice application, you wouldn't want a giant installation of ColdFusion, because that defeats the purpose of a microservice application altogether, right? So we are heading in this direction, and we will have a really, really tiny runtime available for ColdFusion 2020. So that once you have this, you just have the core runtime and the modules that you need. I'll come to modernization in just a bit. So that's the installer size, which is a significant reduction, and our engineers have done an amazing job with reducing it already. So we are in the process of doing it further, but it will take some time. The second one is on modularity. So we are breaking up ColdFusion into quite a few modules. For instance, today, PDF is baked in, scheduled tasks is baked in, everything is a single bundle, right? So we are breaking it up into multiple modules. PDF could be one module, scheduler could be another module, the .NET integration could be another module. So we are breaking the entire runtime into multiple modules. So the whole idea is, let's say you have a microservice that you're planning to build, a REST API, perhaps that just converts HTML to PDF, let's say. So you will just need the runtime and the PDF module, which is still going to be really tiny, perhaps around 50 MB itself or less than 50 MB, just that core runtime. So we have also made some progress here. So I would like to quickly show you a demo. We have a command line modernization available. So I just want to show you the work that has been done already towards the vision of 2020. So this is the video. I hope you can see it. So there is a modules CLI.back available. So it's a command line interface available today. So it opens up a console. Let me just pause it right there. So it opens up a console called CF modules. I'm not sure if it's visible at the back, but anyways, I'll talk through that. So you can actually list all the modules available. You can say list, and it will list all the modules that you have available in this installed version of ColdFusion. Oops. Go to this again. So that's the CLI. It opens up. List will just list all the modules available. Then what you will do next is, let's take a CFM as an example. So this is something that has scheduled task as an example, CF scheduled tag, right? So it's trying to update the scheduled task. Now let's see what happens. So my installation list doesn't have the scheduler module yet. So let's see what happens. Why do I keep doing that? Let me go ahead. This is where we were. Yeah. Okay, so now when you try to run this particular CFM file, it will actually indicate that the scheduler module is not available. So we are going modular already. So this is some of the early work that has been done. So the scheduler module is not available. So now what you can do is you can list all the modules available. So list all command gives you the list of all the modules. Once you do that, when you say list all, you can see that there is a scheduler module available. So you can install that from the command line itself by saying install scheduler, and it will install the schedule task component. So now when you go back and list, you will see that it now has the scheduler module as well in the installed set of modules. So the whole idea is this runtime that I had a set of modules. It did not have the schedule task module. And we are trying to run a scheduled task CFM file, which couldn't run because the scheduled task module wasn't there. So what I did was I went to the command line, installed the scheduler module, and now I'm ready to go. So let's see if it works now. So now the scheduled task can run without any issues. I can actually go back and uninstall if I want to. So all I have to do is just say uninstall scheduler, and it will uninstall. Now when I go back and run the CFM file, you'll again see that scheduler is not available anymore. So this is some of the early work, but it's heading in the right direction because this is a huge engineering task, guys. So this is not a simple task, and our engineers are doing an amazing job with it. So I wanted to show you some early work. Thanks to all the engineers out there with us. So they are doing an amazing job with that on the modularity front. So we will also have potentially a GUI-based installation. So it's not just a command line-based installation. So we are also looking at providing a graphical user interface for this, so that you can just inspect all the modules available and install specific modules that you need from a GUI-based or graphical user interface-based installation as well. So that's how the modularity is progressing. And these are still early days. We have just begun implementing ColdFusion 2020. The engineers have just started working on it, and we've made some significant progress. The next one is rolling out. So we understand that this is a significant shift, but we also realize that this shift is needed for us to stay competitive. Now, from a rollout point of view, what we're trying to do is we will have a full-blown version or a full-blown module as well. So for instance, if you want a list of all the modules available, so you can just have an option to install all the modules in one shot so that you get the full monolithic version that you had in the past. So if you're worried about backward compatibility or anything like that, we will have an option where you can just install all the modules and it will be backward compatible with everything that you have with ColdFusion 2018. The second one is really interesting. So we will have a utility as well for code scan. So your application code might be using PDF or scheduled tasks, but how would you know? So we don't want you to figure out the modules that are dependent. So what we're planning to do is we will run a utility. So we will provide a utility that will actually do a code scan. It will scan your code and it will spit out a file, a configuration file that will have the list of modules. Now the package manager can consume this file and install ColdFusion appropriate to your application. So we will inspect it, scan it, and then create your own ColdFusion engine that needs only the modules that are absolutely essential. Now, the way I envision this is, so if you have a CI/CD pipeline, so let's say one of your developers goes into your source repository and makes a check-in, actually checks in a code. So you can actually kickstart a CI/CD pipeline by using the utility. This utility will scan the entire application code, spit out a file, and using that, passing that file to a package manager, you can actually build your own ColdFusion image in that CI/CD pipeline and perhaps also get a Docker image out of it, or just a vanilla installation of ColdFusion with only the modules that are needed. So this is going to change quite a few things because with the code scan utility that we will have, which it will simplify a lot of things from a modularity perspective. We will also have a runtime check. We're still thinking about this though. We're not absolutely sure if we want to go this route. So we can also install, so perhaps during development time, so we saw the scheduled task, right? It wasn't, the module was not available. So rather than asking you to install, can we provide you with an option where if you actually hit a module that's not available, can ColdFusion in the background go inspect, fetch that module and install it for you? So we're also exploring that, but that'll only be as an additional option. So the code scan is really important. We might go with the runtime check. So all this is an effort to make sure that there's the least amount of transition for you guys. So when you move from ColdFusion 2018 to 2020, we want to make sure that there's not a significant disruption. Though this is actually a significant disruption, we want to ensure that you're not, or at least you're least affected by this transition into ColdFusion 2020. So that's how we'll roll it out. We will also have a configuration tool. Now this is really important because when you have a microservice application, it's absolutely important that you have a script-based deployment. So you should be able to use script and perhaps set a data source, perhaps set your emails, everything to a script. So what we're planning to have is a CLI-based tool, a command line tool, using which you can set individual settings. So what this configuration tool will perhaps do is it will have all the settings in one JSON file, or we're also thinking of just ripping apart all the new XML files and creating a completely different structure as well. But we may not go that route yet for ColdFusion 2020. We might just go with a single JSON file for now that has all the settings from the Tomcat, the JVM, the new XML files. All of that will be a part of this one single JSON file that this CLI tool will generate. And you will be able to show a particular setting or display a particular setting, set a particular setting as well. So set is actually, let's say, if you want to set the request timeout, you will be able to do that from a command line interface, not necessarily getting into the admin. And this is really important for configuration of your microservice application. So you'll be able to add a data source, list various data sources, import a configuration, import a configuration file, or export a configuration file, transfer from one server to another, diff, all of these. So we are thinking of quite a few other commands as well, but we will definitely have these things in place. We also need to make a change to our Docker images, because once you have this JSON file, the Docker images, when it boots up, it needs to pick this JSON file, and if we still have these XML files in place, it needs to make sure that it populates all the XML files when the Docker image comes up. So the Docker image itself will know how to read the JSON files. These are some of the changes that we're doing from a configuration perspective. So it's not just modularity, there's configuration change as well. And beyond ColdFusion 2020, we're also looking at a centralized configuration server. So why just a CLI tool? Can't we go the next step and have a centralized configuration. So for instance, why does every instance of ColdFusion needs to have its own administrator? So we can actually have a centralized configuration that has a common administration tool across all your nodes. You can not just configure, you can administer as well, and all of the nodes of ColdFusion can pick up the settings from that centralized configuration. Not just server settings, but even application settings can be potentially picked up from the centralized configuration server that we will have. But this is not in the plans right now for ColdFusion 2020. We are thinking about this beyond ColdFusion 2010-20. But for 2020, we will certainly have this configuration tool, the CLI-based configuration tool as well. So that's the microservice bit, all about modularity, installer size, and the configuration. So let's move on to the next one, which is cloud. Okay. On the cloud, you heard of the keynote today that we will have a multi-cloud support across AWS and Azure with a common API interface, right? So we will have direct interface for storage across AWS and Azure, for database, for NoSQL, for caching, for messages and notification. So these are the various services that we're looking at, and across AWS and Azure to begin with. So this is what ColdFusion 2020 will have. And I would like to show you some early code as well for this one. So let's start off with storage. So storage, AWS S3, how many of you use AWS S3? Okay, quite a few. So AWS S3 is simplified storage service that's available from Amazon on AWS. Similarly, we have Azure Blob, which is again a scalable service, storage service that Azure provides. It's called the Azure Blob. Now, across all this, I would like to show you some code. Again, this is running on bleeding edge build right now. Our engineers just implemented this functionality, so hopefully it will work. So let me go ahead and check this. Can you see this? Yes. Okay, storage. So let's see the storage functionality right here. Okay, so we do have a neat interface called the cloud service. Okay, so this is a built-in function. It just takes credentials and configuration information. As Ashish mentioned in the keynote today, we are making it cloud independent, and this is the innovation that we have here. So I can actually change this. So let me start off with S3 configuration, S3 credentials and S3 configuration. So this can come in from a different file altogether. Okay, so I'll just change it to S3 for now. And the same code will work if I change it to Blob, and it will work on Azure as well. So that's the magic behind the scenes. So if you see, there's cloud service here, simple function, and it gives you an access to storage service instance. Okay, so on the storage service, I can do a list all. So basically, if you do a list all, it will give you the list of all buckets in S3. So whoever is familiar with S3 would know this. You'll get a list of all the buckets in S3. And anybody who's using Azure will get a list of Azure containers. So Azure calls it as containers. You'll get a list of all the containers available on Azure Blob. So that's what the list all does. Now, what I have next is I have a file name. It's just a JPEG file that I'm trying to upload. There's a key associated. So both the Blob services need a key. So I have key 1 here. And then I do a storage service.root. So I'm trying to get access to one specific bucket called root POC. Okay. So I'm trying to get that. So storage service.root will give me access to the root handle. And then after that, I'm trying to upload that request with the source file and the key. So root.upload file, it is as simple as that. So this is a significant difference between the potential ColdFusion 2020 versus computation. If you have to do the same thing in Java, it's a lot of lines of code. And we are trying to be better than any other computation out there with just a few lines of code and the productivity associated with ColdFusion. So it's as simple as this to interact with a storage service. So you just have to say root.upload file to upload a specific file. Next, what you can also do is you can list all. So this is the same list all that we've seen already. So this will actually list all the keys in this particular bucket, S3 bucket. If it's S3, it's bucket. If it is AWS, if it's Azure, it is container. Now, once I have that, I can also list based on a specific prefix as well. So I have K as a prefix, so it will list all the keys starting with K. I can also download a file. So downloading a file is as simple as creating a struct for the download file, passing a destination file as well here, and pass in a key. So once I do that, I'll be able to download the response. All I have to do is root.download file to download the request. Now here comes the moment. So let me try to run this and see if it works. All right. No, it's not the one. Okay, I need to get to storage. Storage.cfm. So it's currently working on AWS S3, right? So let's hit that. Come on, work. It's taking some time. Okay, I think it worked. Let's see. So it listed all the routes available or all the S3 buckets available. So we are specifically interested in this last bucket over here, which is called the root POC. So that's the bucket that I'm interested in. So I can just zoom it a bit so that all of you can see it. Okay. So I do have root POC, and I'm trying to upload is a subsys, and I have the keys available. So I'm trying to list all the keys with the letter K, and there's only one key. And I'm trying to download the response as well. So when I download, I should see a file right here, which is the JPEG file, and that got downloaded. So S3 is working. So now let's quickly check Azure as well. As I said, it's just a quick flip. So all the while it was actually working on an AWS East region right now, I can quickly flip that and change it to blob. That is all I need to do. So blob credentials are right there, and this will work on Azure as well. So this is the multi-cloud stuff, the multi-cloud magic, I should say. So once I have this, you will see now the credentials, everything points to Azure now. So when I run the same file, you will see a response from Azure coming in, not from S3, but you will see from Azure blob. So this is what happens. So the same response, the same functionality basically, everything works just as is, but the response now is coming from Azure. So that's why you see containers here. Container is the term that is used on the Azure side. And you will see root POC is the container that we are interested in. Upload happened, download happened, and everything worked just as is. So with the same kind of code. So do you guys like it? So I didn't change a single line of code. So if you have to do this manually, it's too much of work. I'm sure some of you have tried this. So if you have AWS, you need to download the AWS SDK, perhaps use another language to write all your application code. Then if you have to move it to Azure, it's a different beast altogether. You need to learn Azure, the syntax associated with Azure, download the Azure SDK, write a fresh code altogether, and then work with Azure as well. So, but with this, we want to be futuristic, so we want to think a few years ahead about the potential problems that can arise with the whole cloud scenario, and that's why we are betting on multi-cloud. It's not just a productive interface, but it also works across clouds on Azure and S3. All right, so that's the storage. Then I'll quickly show you NoSQL. So anybody who uses MongoDB here or has some experience working with MongoDB? Okay, there are a few. So we will have a really productive interface for MongoDB in ColdFusion 2020. You no longer have to use any of the native JAMs to get this working. ColdFusion will have that ability. You will also have an integration with Dynamodb as well. So that MongoDB is basically a document-based NoSQL database. Really powerful one of the most popular NoSQL databases out there. Dynamodb is the one from AWS. It's a combination of key value as well as document-based NoSQL database. So let's quickly look at the code associated. Again, it's super simple. So let's just quickly see how does it work. I'm going to first show you the MongoDB code. Okay. So I have a function called Mongo service. So this is actually pointing to Azure's Cosmos DB. So Azure has Mongo available as a service. So we are trying to use that. So it's connecting to Azure's Cosmos DB right now. So that will, so the name of the database is mydb. And once I get the DB handle, all I'm doing is db.collection. I'm just dropping in to clear every element in that collection right now. Then I'm doing a collection.insert. So this will insert a whole bunch of records. It's NoSQL, remember? So there's no structure associated. It's just a dump of a JSON file. So you have all of these available. So I'm just trying to insert into MongoDB. Okay. So collection.insert inserts into the MongoDB. Similarly, we have collection.insert many. So this will like insert multiple JSON documents one after the other. Okay, so that's the insert many. Similarly, we have find. So there's collection.find where you can actually get each and every element. You can also, there are various other capabilities of MongoDB that you have exposed as well. So pretty much every functionality of MongoDB is exposed. So you can actually do a find, you can do a skip one and limit one. So skip one will actually skip the first entry. Limit one will just limit the results to one record or the one JSON document. So that's collection.find. So you can also pass in a key. So I'm not set anything as the first entry available. Similarly, Mongo regular expressions, you can also use the Mongo regular expressions to actually change the settings in your MongoDB. Find again based on regular expressions. There's a whole bunch of functionality available. So you can also get distinct colleges in my example, delete one, delete many. Basically, every functionality of MongoDB is supported through this really productive interface. If you're using native Java, it's going to take you a lot of code. So this is super simple. So when I try to run this, so we saw storage. Let's just quickly look at the MongoDB. So when I go at demo.cfn, so now this is actually getting in touch with Azure and giving the response back. So we are trying to insert a set of documents, finding all the documents. So basically this is working, so that's all I want. At least it's working without any issues. So that's good to know. So that's the MongoDB bit. Similarly, we do have Dynamodb. So I'll walk you through Dynamodb as well. So this is an AWS specific NoSQL database. So with a different syntax, of course, we support all the Dynamodb constructs on this new interface. So let me just show you that as well. Dynamo text. So Dynamo needs you to create a table kind of a structure because it's both a key value based NoSQL database as well as the document based. So when you see the structure, the interface is pretty much the same. If you notice, I just need to use cloud service, pass in the credentials associated and the configuration associated, and I'll get a handle to Dynamo here. So I'm trying to create a table called movies right here. So I also have a table schema. This is working with Dynamodb. So you have key schema. So I have title and year of the movie as two keys, and then I also have attributes. One is a string, the other is a number. So these are all Dynamodb specific syntaxes. So don't worry too much if you're not aware of Dynamodb. But the whole point is we will have a really super interface with AWS Dynamodb as well. So when you can do a dynamo.create table to actually create the table on the Dynamodb. Then list tables will list all the tables associated. You can actually put an element in the table. Similarly, so ColdFusion does some internal magic here as well. So you don't need to specify any kind of type. With Dynamodb, if you use Java, you have to specify what is the type of every single access that you're doing. Is it a string? Is it a number? With ColdFusion, since we have the runtime as well, we infer the type, so you don't have to worry about providing types anymore. So this also adds to the productivity for ColdFusion when come back to computation. So dynamo.putItem will put the item into the Dynamodb. I can get and dump the result as well. So this is everything that is happening on the Dynamodb. So again, if I run this, I'm sure it works. So this will interact with AWS's Dynamodb as well and fetch the results. So really productive interface for the NoSQL as well in ColdFusion 2020 coming out. So that's NoSQL. Similarly, we have messages and notification. We do have SQS. So anybody's used SQS here, Simple Queue Service on Amazon? You have? Okay, quite a few. So yes, there's a Simple Queue Service available on Amazon called SQS. So and it also has something called as SNS, which is notification. So the queue service is basically a producer-consumer kind of a scenario where messages are getting populated in the queue and a consumer is consuming stuff off SQS. SNS is notification. It's more of a publisher-subscriber kind of a model where you will have one publisher publish, but you will have many subscribers who want to get notified. So that's SNS, which is simple notification service. Azure has an equivalent. It is called the Azure Service Bus. It performs both the functionality of a queue as well as notification. So just like anything else with the multi-cloud approach, we have a productive interface and that will work across AWS and Azure. So let me just quickly show you the interface. It's super simple to work with. Okay, so SQS again. So let's start with SQS. If I go to message operations here, I have a cloud service again. I'm passing SQS's credentials and SQS's configuration. So I have a handle to SQS now, which is Amazon's queue service. So first I'll try to create a queue. SQS.create queue will give me an access, will give me a handle to the queue. Then once I have that, I can actually send a message. So once I've created a queue, I can actually do a myQueue.send message to send a message to the SQS or the particular queue that I've created. I've just got it as plain queue. When I do that, it will send a message to the queue. And I can also receive the response, receive the message by doing a myQueue.receive message and by passing in the metadata associated. So that is that's it. And I can also delete a queue from here. I can do a SQS.delete queue and pass the queue URL. So this is a super simple example of using SQS, but what is interesting is the interface. It's so easy to work with this queue interface. All you have to do is just have a cloud service, and then once you have SQS, start creating those queues. When you use, if any one of you have used Java or any other technology to get this done, you realize that it is not so straightforward. And the best part is the cloud magic as well, the multi-cloud magic. So all I'm doing here is exactly the same code. I'm just passing in the service bus credential and service bus configuration for Azure. I'm getting get a handle to the service bus, and basically it's the same code. So service bus, I have to create a queue, service bus to create queue. This is Azure's service bus. It's not AWS's functionality. And I can pass in a message. I can do a send message. I can do a receive message, and I can delete as well. So let me just try to run this. It is working across both the clouds, on both SQS as well as on Azure Blob and on Azure Service Bus. So let's see if this works. SQS, message operations. Okay, great. So we got a response from AWS. So we got the handle, send message was successful, receive message was successful. Fingers crossed for Azure. I think it has worked. So listing all queries in Azure. So it has listed all the, there's some issue. Create queue request page. So I think this is a no issue. I can go clear. All I have to do is just clear this queue on the Azure portal. I am a little adventurous today. Let me try that. So I'm getting to the Azure portal. So I'm also showing this to you just to let you know that I'm not faking anything. This is real stuff. I'm getting into the Azure console. Service bus. Azure has something called as namespaces. Okay, I need to get to the queues. Actually, there's no queue called plain queue. I'm not sure why this exception came up. So you can actually, I sometimes get an exception when there's already a queue available called the plain queue, but it looks like it's not even there. I'm not sure why that would have popped up, but just to let you know that it is working. So I also would like to show you the storage as well. So storage, remember we created a key called key1 and uploaded the file. I'd like to show that as well, just to let you know that it's actually working. Storage accounts, storage explorer, blob containers. This is how Azure calls it as. Root POC was the storage, was the container that we were using. So if you go hit that, that's key1. So it actually went and populated key1 on the storage account. So it is working on real Azure cloud. Okay. Similarly, there's SNS as well. So SNS is more about notification. So I'm not perhaps run that. I'll just quickly walk you through that because we have quite a bit of other interesting stuff to cover in this session. So I will get to SNS real quick. SNS is a notification service from AWS. So all you have to do is just create the cloud service again. You'll get the SNS handle. You have to create a topic associated. So you just have to create a topic, and then once you have created the topic, SNS.create topic, you can list all the topics. You can also publish a message to a topic. So let me just show you that. topic.subscribe. So yeah, so basically I'm subscribing right now. So I do have topic.subscribe. One of my endpoint is actually my phone number, and I will get a message as soon as it's published. Similarly, I have another subscribe for an email address. I can subscribe to that topic, and once I publish to a specific topic, so there's a topic.publish as well. So this is the publish metadata. So you can do a topic.publish, and once you publish a message, any subscriber that is subscribed to this topic will get a message. So that it is as simple as that. But you can use this in a variety of ways in your application. So you just need to publish, and there's a whole bunch of receivers waiting to be notified. And the various endpoints that Amazon supports, AWS supports, it could be an email, it could actually be a Lambda function itself on AWS. There's a whole bunch of things associated with SNS. So I'll not run this, but I think you got the idea. So we will have support for SNS as well with a super productive interface. Okay, so that's about the cloud. Yes, one last thing before we move on to the next one. So serverless, we will have a tool using which you can actually build a Lambda runtime. So we will have a tool using which you can pretty much wrap your code and create a Lambda ColdFusion runtime that you can deploy on AWS Lambda or Azure function. So these are the serverless options that AWS and Azure provides. So you can actually deploy this runtime on AWS and Azure. So that's what we have, the serverless side of things. So that's cloud. So we saw microservices, we saw cloud. Let's quickly get into modernization. So on the modernization, we have some really interesting language improvements that we did with ColdFusion 2018 Update 5. How many of you have tried Update 5? The recent ColdFusion 2018 Update 5? Okay, just a few. Okay, so we do have some really interesting language improvements in the Update 5. So for instance, we do have support for some and every now, every on arrays, structs and queries. Array function has a splice support. Query function, so this is really interesting. So we do have quite a few functions supported on query now. So you can actually append two queries, prepend, create a new query as well just by passing in an array of struct. You can actually create a new query as well. Reverse, slice, insert, all of this is possible. But for me, the really interesting one is the Lambda support through the fact arrow operator. It's called the Lambda using the fact arrow operator. So all of these examples are available at that fiddle URL. I know it's difficult to kind of make note of that, but we will be sharing the slide deck later on. You can actually access all the examples that I talked about on cffiddle.org. When you access that URL, you can actually try it out without having to install ColdFusion Update 5 on Fiddle. Okay, so let me just walk you through the various Lambda improvements. How many of you are aware of what Lambda is? Wow, quite a few. But for the benefit of others, I'm going to start with the most basic example and take it from there. So let's see. Okay, so it's not this one. Okay, so let's look at the most basic example to understand what Lambda is all about. This is for those of you who don't know what Lambda is. Okay, so what I have here is a function. This is all script code, CF script code. So I have a function called modernized, and I have a function, a closure function, right here that is just multiplying its two arguments and returning data back. So this is a simple closure that all of us know. What about Lambda? So what does it do? So the second one is a Lambda. So what I'm doing here is, there is a variable, and to it I'm assigning a special function called a Lambda. So Lambda is a much better version of a closure because hardly any lines to be written. So what this does is it takes two arguments, similar to what we have here. So I have the Lambda equivalent of the same function here. So all it does is takes two arguments, a comma b as the two arguments, and here is the fact arrow operator with an equal to and a greater than, and this has a star b. So this is effectively an inline function that multiplies a and b together and gives you the result. So this is available in ColdFusion 2018 already. Now when I run this, you will see that both of the functions will run exactly the same, and you will see the output. So let me just quickly run that. Arrow functions, Lambda basic. You will see that multiplication from closure and from Lambda return the same value. So it's effectively the same. It's like an inline closure, but you hardly write any lines of code with Lambda. So let's look at some of the other interesting examples with Lambda. Alright, so this is a superheroes array that I have. It's an array of struct. I have Iron Man here. How many Avenger fans here? Not a lot, okay. This is the wrong example. I think I chose the wrong example. Okay, so there is an Iron Man with member Avengers. There's Wonder Woman just from Justice League, Hulk from Avengers. So basically a whole bunch of elements in my array. Now what I can do is I can actually filter the superheroes method or the superheroes array by using lambda. So I can also pass in a closure, but I'll try to use a lambda here to see how it works. So what I have here is filter. After the filter, I have a lambda written right there. So the first thing that you do with the lambda is pass in the argument, which is superheroes, and then follow it up with a fact arrow operator with an equal to and a greater than sign. You can actually open up a curly brace if you have more than one line. So I have it open, and in the return statement, all I have here is if superheroes is a member of Avengers, only then return true. So this will return true only if the member is from Avengers. If they are from Justice League, it just filter it out. So this is how I can use filtering to get lambdas working. So I'll just run this and show this to you. So the expectation is that it should filter out all the superheroes from Justice League, and it should only have Avengers. This is the list of all the superheroes. This is the filtered list, and you will see that this only has Avengers. So you can use lambdas in a lot of interesting ways, and I'll show you a couple of them here, a couple more, so that I want you to get excited with lambda. So that's the reason I'll show you a few other examples as well. What else do we have? So you can also use this in tags. So you can use lambda like this. So I have a CF set ring, and there is an empty braces out there. So this is basically a while function. It's not taking any argument, but I still have the fact arrow operator and just returning hello world. Now when I run this, it will just print hello world. So that's the lambda that I'm using here. Now let us see some more. Yes, nested. Okay, so where it gets really interesting and quite complicated as well is when you have a lambda within a lambda. Okay, I wanted to show you this as well. So what you see here is I should have actually called it not a closure but a lambda. But anyway, so this is my closure, and it takes argument 1, and it has a fact arrow operator, which is the definition of the first lambda. Now what's happening inside is it is actually returning another lambda, another function within that. So that's argument 2, and it starts off with the second lambda definition, and then there's a third one to make it super complicated. So then there's return argument 3, and then what happens in argument 3 is this hello world, and it kind of brings argument 1, 2, and 3 together. Okay? So that's my lambda definition with 3 different lambdas, one inside the other. Now, what do you think will happen if I run my closure with just argument 1 and argument 2? I'm not passing in argument 3 here. Any guesses? So argument 1 goes, you will get a lambda for argument 2, and argument 2 gets passed, and that's again returning a lambda. So the output is actually a lambda function itself. It doesn't return anything other than a lambda function itself. Now, only when I pass in all the 3, argument 1, argument 2, and argument 3, that is when I'll see the hello world output. Is this clear? Are you able to get this? Okay, so now when I run this, you will see the first thing is it will just dump in a lambda function straight away. The second one will actually print hello world argument 1, 2, and 3. So let's just run this again. Nested. Okay, so this is where you see the first lambda that is getting printed out, and then you'll see hello world argument 1, 2, and 3. So the lambda function that we have is actually working. Okay. So you can also use lambdas in various other interesting ways. I just want to show you one last thing before we move on to the next one. So I have a simple array here, and I have lambdas here. So I want you to tell me what will be the output of this. Okay, so it's based on lambda returning a lambda that we just saw. So there is an array function here. It is taking one argument, and there's a definition of a lambda here, and it's returning another lambda function, and it just does argument 1 plus argument 2. Okay, and there's a second element in the array which is taking argument 1 and returning a lambda again with argument 1 multiplied by argument 2. Now those are the two elements in my array. Now what do you think would happen when I dump array 4, the first element, passing 2 and 3 to that? What do you think the first element of my array would be with this definition of lambda? Another array. Now I'm trying to access the first element, so it's not going to be another array. So I'm trying to access the first element of the array. When I try to access that and pass those arguments, so it will invoke the lambda.
ARG1 plus ARG2.
Sorry?
ARG1 plus ARG2. That's what it is.
Yes, so yes, you're right. So it's 2 and 3 is what I'm passing, so it will be 5. So I get 5. So if I change this to, let's say, argument 2, or the second element, it's going to multiply that and give me 6. So because the lambda here has argument 1 star argument 2. Is this making sense? Are you getting it? Okay, so I just wanted to show you the power of lambda. So you might not use this to this extent in your daily life, but I just want to give you a sense of how you can explore lambdas going forward with ColdFusion. So this is a part of all the modernization effort that we're doing with ColdFusion. So let me just get back to the presentation real quick. So this is available right now in ColdFusion 2018. We also have CFScript 2.0. So this was spoken about in the keynote as well. So our script syntax has potential issues because it still looks like a tag. So what you see at the top is the tag kind of syntax. It has CF-HTTP and CF-HTTP pattern. That's how tags work. Script syntax doesn't work that way. So ideally it should be something like a new HTTP, .add pattern and .send. So what we're trying to do is we are reimagining the entire script syntax to make it more ECMAScript compliant and to make it more JavaScript friendly, so that anybody, not just you, so anybody who's trying to get inside ColdFusion, perhaps from a JavaScript background. So JavaScript is pretty much every developer knows JavaScript these days, right? So can they quickly learn CFScript 2.0? That's the intent, and also to fix the script syntax itself. It still kind of has this tag flavor to it. We'll get rid of all that. But the existing stuff will continue to work because this will be a new script syntax, and you specifically say that I want to use CFScript 2.0 to get your applications going. So that's CFScript 2.0. Okay, almost running out of time, so let's quickly go to the next one. So on productivity, we saw this in the keynote as well, so I'll not delve deeper. So what you see on the right hand side is potential code that you have to use in Java versus HTML for dealing with queues. We will have centralized configuration code scan. We saw all this that we discussed. So this is the productivity benefit that ColdFusion will have. Moving on to performance. On the performance side, we will have a drastic reduction in the startup time because ColdFusion 2020 is significantly modularized. We will have a drastic reduction in the startup time. We are looking at somewhere less than 5 seconds. So that's what we are looking at. And since I announced it, that's perhaps a goal for our engineering team as well to reach that. So that's the drastic reduction we are looking at the startup time. So it will be under significantly less. We'll also have a nimble runtime. So because the runtime is so tiny now, it will consume very less memory, very less resources. So you can scale significantly better with ColdFusion 2020 with your existing resources. You don't have to invest on additional hardware or additional machines. You can actually get this nimble runtime and use it on the same machine. So that's performance. The last one is security. So on the security side, we do have single sign-on support. So anybody who's dealing with single sign-on already in your applications today?
Yeah.
You are? Okay. So what we will have in ColdFusion 2020 is a built-in integration for single sign-on. So you just have to use a couple of functions to get the single sign-on working. So I'll just quickly show you a demo of that as well. Some code as well. So I know that most of you are developers here who like to see real code rather than just listening to me. So I'll just show you that code as well. Where is Samuel? Samuel. Yeah, it's right here. So we do have integration with SAML server now. So what happens is that we just go to login.cfm. So what this does is it has a tag syntax. Basically, it's not a script syntax. So just focus on this other side here, the is defined SAML login. So if somebody chooses single sign-on, what this will do is it will create a struct with relay state, IDP. So you can actually configure your identity provider. So SAML has an identity provider and a service provider. So you can configure your identity provider and the service provider within the ColdFusion admin and access it in the code like this. So I can do an IDP.name and service provider.name and initiate a single sign-on request. So you don't have to do any of this hard work about assembling the request and sending it to the sample. Everything is taken care of by this one single function. So you just have to pass a struct, and this will make a sample request or authentication request, and it will redirect to a specific page that you want to. And I'll just show you the redirected page as well. So the redirected page will actually come to response.cfm in my case. So here, what I'm trying to do is, this was the redirection that happened from the SAML or the single sign-on server. So I can do a verify SAML response. So once I do the verify SAML response, I can get access to the authenticated name. Okay, so I'm using the name ID here to create a session. So I can actually create a session using multiple ways, but I'm just trying to create a session using CF login here. So I'm using CF login to create that single sign-on session. So let me just run this to you so that you get a sense of what I'm talking about. So this is another one. Right. SAML. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. Don't look at the password. So this is actually getting connected to an Okta server. Okta is one of the SAML providers for single sign-on. So I'm signing in. So it is going to the rest. Oh, I missed it. Stop. Sign in. So this will sign me in using single sign-on, and it will bring me to a ColdFusion application. This is just some random ColdFusion application. So this is how SAML integration works with ColdFusion 2020. So this is how we are pushing the needle with security with ColdFusion 2020. Yes, I'm pretty much at the very last of my presentation. So we do have a pre-release participation survey. So very soon, as you can potentially guess, we do have a few things ready. We will polish it even further and make available the alpha for ColdFusion 2020 very soon. So that's a survey monkey URL. So if you're interested in participating in the pre-release for ColdFusion 2020 with all the exciting stuff that we just saw, just make sure you visit the URL and express your interest. There are a few questions. Based on that, we will be able to enroll you for the upcoming pre-release sometime later this year. So that's where we are from a pre-release point of view. With that, I come to the end of the presentation. If you do have any kind of questions, do let me know. But before that, please submit the survey, the session feedback. This will help us a lot to figure out what kind of sessions you're really interested in. So make sure you just submit the session feedback as well in the app for the session. So that will significantly help us create better content for the next year. So with that, I come to the end of the presentation. If you have any kind of questions, feel free. Yes, there's a question there.
Target date, time frame for 2020?
In 2020. That's all. Yes.
Are you going to have a shell language for the CLI so I can use PowerShell, I can use Git bash?
My sense is you should be able to use. I'll just pass it to the engineers there. Anybody has an idea there? So using the CLI tools that we have, is it possible to use it with PowerShell? What else did you say?
Git bash.
Git bash. Can you use it with that? Well, you should be able to, because it's just a command line interface. You will be able to use it with your existing CI/CD pipeline. Absolutely, yes. I think I can answer that. Yes, it is possible. Yeah. Yes. Any other question? Great, and I hope you guys are excited about ColdFusion 2020 just as we are. Thanks for attending the session.